Alright, what's going on, guys? This is Spooky, and I'm back with another Zenless Zone Zero video. This one is especially made for you newcomers that are here on the channel, those of you guys that are new to the game, whether you joined in Zenless Zone Zero version 2.0, whether you're an Xbox player that just got access to the game and you just started, or just anyone else in general that's trying to decide on pull plans for version 2.1 and which characters you should pull for. Well, you got two tough choices this time around. They're very tough. You got Yuzuha, and Yuzuha is one of the greatest supports that you've ever gotten. She gives a 1200 attack buff to the team. She buffs the team's anomaly in lots of general ways, especially if you have her weapon. And she's got, Ashta Yao levels of team compositions. She goes on a multitude of different teams, and she even goes on teams that perhaps the devs didn't even intend. Like, she's actually pretty good on regular old stun and attack comps, especially together with someone like a Jufufu or a Chingy or something like that. And then your other option is you got the Void Hunter Miyabi. This is one of the greatest damage dealers that we've ever gotten in the game. And she's also Ice type, which is unique in that there's only two other Ice types that are kind of her caliber. One is Hugo, who you also probably didn't have a chance to pull for. And one is Ellen, who had a rerun like a little while ago. But if you didn't start playing when that Ellen rerun happened, then you probably don't have her either. And this one is a really tough choice. So I kind of want to get into the kit of both characters and show you a little bit of their gameplay and hopefully give you an idea of which one you should go for. There's also a bigger problem, which is that the two of them actually work really well together. Yuzuha, Miyabi, and Sokaku is looking like a team that's rivaling that unique Ice, Lycan, Sokaku, and Miyabi team. And having access to Yuzuha also means that you can put her on lots of different teams. So it's a very tough choice as far as which one you should pull for. Alright, so I'm going to start with Miyabi and some of what she can do in her kit. Thankfully, we have the tutorial that they added here for her this patch, which makes things a little easier for me to explain to you. But the main thing is that whenever she attacks an enemy, she puts them in a special frost state. And the frost state is kind of similar to Ice. It has some of the same properties. The idea is pretty much beat up the enemy, and then you're going to put frost on them. And then whenever it caps out, you're going to get a free anomaly proc, which they call Frost Burn. And there's a lot of ways to do it. You can just do special attacks. You can do a regular special. I think you can just do regular attacks too, although they're showing it with the special here. And these are all ways to build Frost Anomaly buildup. When you build enough of the buildup, then you're going to get an anomaly proc, just like you see here, the meter building up. And once it builds up, bam, you're going to get a grip of damage at the end. And that's what's called a Frost Burn or Frost Burn Break. Now, she's also got one more special thing that I'm going to talk about here, and that's that as she beats up enemies and she does certain special attacks, she's going to get stacks of this Fallen Frost. And the Fallen Frost, they show you up here on the top left what it looks like. When you get 6 stacks of this Fallen Frost, you're going to get to do a special charge attack. But actually, you can also do charge attacks with 2 stacks and with 4 stacks, which sometimes can be relevant, but most of the time, especially as a beginner to her, you're going to want to just get 6 stacks, and then you're going to charge this basic attack, and you're going to get this insane, full screen, really busted move that just does way too much damage. And I'm going to get into some of her damage percentages and everything else in a bit. It has so many invincible frames, it's actually crazy, which makes it really powerful in the tower, in shield defense, and in deadly assault. You can kind of think of this as like a mini super that you can do, and you can kind of do it at any time, especially when you proc your Frost Burn or everything else. But on top of that, she also has a regular super that's really powerful too, and it's another insane full screen move that just, look at this thing. It goes all over the screen, it does a grip of damage, it does lots of anomaly, and also if you proc, it's going to build some of the stacks for you too, making things even easier. And you can already tell, just looking at the damage I'm doing to this enemy, I didn't even need the rest of the team that they gave me. I pretty much just smashed with Miyabi, and you could see, just for real, the ridiculous amounts of damage that she can do. Alright, now to put some hard numbers on the damage that her skills can do. The major ones are the super, take a look at this, at level 12 does 4,700% damage, which is a crazy number. A lot of attackers don't even approach these numbers, and I'm talking about S-rank attackers, ones that are event agents, don't approach these numbers, which is crazy. Now, this is the one that's going to really blow your mind if you've never played with Miyabi. Take a look at how much damage the level 3 Shimotsuki slash does. This thing does 4,000 4,280 damage, or 4,280% damage. This does almost the damage of the super. And when you use her well, you know, you're going to get multiple of these level 3 slashes as you fight the enemies. You're going to be doing 3, 4, sometimes 5 of these. You're also going to get those big anomaly procs from the Frostburn, and you're going to be getting the damage of the super when you build it up. And on top of that, her EX is not bad too. It's got a lot of damage as well, and it also adds damage to the super. It does so many different things. And so because of that, Miyabi, just the damage that she puts out is phenomenal. And the invincibility frames that she has are also crazy. You're going to have less trouble dealing with certain enemies that just swing really wild because she's invincible so often during her charge attacks as well as during everything else. Now, the only caveat and the only thing I should warn you about before deciding to go for Miyabi is that the Hailstorm Shrine is her best weapon. And this one is a weapon that you got to pull for on the banner. It's not a free-to-play weapon. This weapon, you can tell how busted it is just looking at all the things that it does. It gives 50% crit damage, which is already more than an S-rank weapon normally does. Usually, I think it tops at 48%. It gives 24% crit rate, which helps her out with her anomaly because, as I said before, her anomaly mastery gets improved based on crit rate. And then on top of that, she can also get up to 40% increased ice damage for 15 seconds just by doing an EX special or when somebody else does anomaly to the enemy. So when you get your disorder procs or whatever else. So this weapon is really kind of busted for Miyabi. The next couple weapons down are just not as good. So that's one thing to really keep in mind if you're going to go for this character, is that she's really the best with her signature weapon. Now, on top of that, she's got some Mindscapes that are really strong too. The first Mindscape basically says that more or less whenever she does her charge Shimotsuki stance, she ignores up to 36% of the enemy defense. And she also can do the Frostburn procs faster. Usually anomalies has a longer cooldown. It just depends on the character how their anomaly cooldown works typically. But this will actually make it so that you can proc back-to-back anomalies a little bit quicker by taking away their Frostburn. You also get more anomaly build-up rate for 10 seconds too, which is pretty nice. Now the second Mindscape, this is the one I recommend stopping at if you're going to pull for extra copies. The second Mindscape basically says that she gets a free charge Shimotsuki at the start of the battle, and she also gets 50% extra crit rate, which makes it easier for her to get to the max amount of crit rate that she needs to do all the things that she needs to do. So if you're thinking about the Mindscapes, I would probably stop at Mindscape 2. You could be a maniac and go for the Mindscape 6, but most of the time, don't bother. You don't need these Mindscapes, by the way. If you're free to play and you just want to get Miyabi, you don't need her Mindscape 1, you don't need her Mindscape 2. In fact, just the Mindscape 0 is so powerful, and if you go for the weapon on top of that, you're going to get a lot more out of her too. But really, just an M0 Miyabi is extremely strong. Alright, so next up, I'm going to talk a little more in depth about Yuzuha's kit. And the number one thing that makes her super good is this core skill. And I know it's got a lot of text, but basically the important parts are that she gives up to 1,200 maximum attack to other characters, just to pretty much to everybody on the squad. You need 3,000 attack to get the max buff. I actually really like that it tells you here about this, but you need 3,000 attack to get the max buff, which sounds hard, but it's actually not that tough. Now, the other thing is that the more anomaly mastery that she has, the more anomaly buildup that she's going to give to the rest of the squad. And you can't really max this without her signature weapon, but the good news is that you don't really need her signature weapon to max this out. In fact, I'm not even using it. I'm using most of the time the Weeping Cradle, or I'm using, Kaboom the Cannon from Lucy. Really, any weapon that has energy regen as a secondary is going to work pretty well for Yuzuha, because you want her to have as much energy as possible, because you want to be constantly using her quick assist, because while you're quick assisting, you're also passing over her big buff. Now, I'm going to take her into combat real quick to talk to you about one other thing that she does that's really interesting and pretty unique compared to other characters in the game. Okay, so the other unique thing that she has is she has this special little debuff that she can put on the enemies. And you'll probably notice it in the top left because I've got 3 stacks of it right now. The way you get more stacks is by doing defensive assists, by doing EX moves like this, or when you do your super, it's also going to give you more of the stacks. And you'll kind of know when the enemy has it because you see kind of this effect on the enemy right now where it looks like little candies are coming off of them. So whenever this is happening, you have them in the Sweet Scare or the Debuff. And one thing that the Debuff does is it makes it so that instead of her anomaly being a Fizz anomaly, she's gonna match whoever the next character is that comes in. So if I quick assist over to Miyabi, what's gonna happen is eventually she's gonna start doing, and you can kind of see it there a little bit, she's gonna do, as I attack the enemy, she's gonna do her special Frost Burn damage. You can see she did a grip of it there just now. And she actually does a significant amount of anomaly. One thing that's also unique is that she doesn't add or take away from the anomaly damage that the character gets. And so what that means is that you're going to get the most damage out of Miyabi's procs when they happen. Or whoever, if you got Jane Doe here, if you got Bernice here, Yanagi, whoever you got that's your anomaly person, whenever she hits the enemy, she's not going to take away any of their max potential damage, which is usually a problem with other characters. Like if you have, you know, if you have Ellen and you have like Sokaku on the Ellen team, then the Sokaku sometimes is going to take away a little bit from Ellen's potential damage on procs. Now, Ellen's not a person used for anomaly, but that's just an example that came to my head to give you an idea. So this is extra nice because you can get faster anomaly procs just by having her on the team with her Sweet Scare. And then you're also going to get the huge buff that I was talking about. And this is an idea. It's 1200 attack, 50% damage, and it doesn't show it here, but also you're going to get more anomaly too, which is just extra crazy what you really can add to your teams. And I mentioned this before, but that 1200 attack just works for anybody. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a Miyabi or whether it's like a Jane Doe or whether it's like a Zhu Yuan or even like a Yishuan. She's not perfect for Yishuan because of how Yishuan converts attack. But even for someone like a Yishuan, this Tanuki Wish buff is going to work really well. And the other thing about her is that she's relatively easy to use too. Now, the other thing that's interesting about Yuzuha is that she has a unique defensive assist. And so you can do it quick like this, or you can wait for the just frame time basically to get like a better version of it. And I'll try to show you what that better version looks like. Basically, you wait for the flash, and then you're going to get this nice little umbrella swipe. And it does lots of days too, which is pretty nice if you use it correctly. But it's also good because you can do your EX immediately after and get a fast version of a quick assist. So you just do this, you press EX, and then you get a quick, really fast version of her EX special, which gets you really nice days. It gets you really nice, fast, quick assists. You can also do it with the regular version like this if you want to, but it's a little bit better if you get that unique animation I'm talking about, which is the big umbrella swipe at the end. So it's a thing that you can really keep in mind with Yuzuha. It's really strong to have someone that adds so much days to the team. It kind of makes me think of Caesar a little bit. Use it right, and then bam, you got a grip of days, you got a nice, fast, quick assist, and you get to tag to your character that you want. Alright, so now I'm going to give you my off-the-cuff thoughts on which of the two you should pull for. So Yuzuha, we already talked about how she's a great support. Miyabi, we talked about how she's such a great damage dealer. Now, if you started in Zenless Zone Zero 2.0, or if you're one of those new Xbox guys that just jumped in, you may already have some good supports. Maybe you pulled for Yishuan, and then you also got yourself an Astra Yao, who's really good too as support. Or maybe, you know, you pulled for Caesar, and so you got like your Caesar on the squad. Now, that being said, Yuzuha and Miyabi right now, they're both busting the tier charts. And I mean, Yuzuha just came out. They're putting her at the top, tippity top of the top tier. But with Miyabi, you got to understand that since version 1.0, people really wanted this character. For those of you that weren't here from the beginning of the game, they were salivating on Reddit about this character. When's Miyabi coming? Lady Miyabi, please step on me. They were losing their minds about Miyabi. And when she finally did come out, she was busting the DPS charts wide open for months. It wasn't until finally the anniversary character came along, Yishuan, that finally we started seeing someone that could somewhat rival Miyabi. And that's also because they were making all the enemies strong against ice. But that being said, Miyabi, she's just so powerful. So I think if you started during 2.0, I'm leaning towards telling you that maybe you should go for Miyabi. But my best advice right now is probably to do something like this if you can. since Miyabi needs her weapon to really do her best versus Yuzuha doesn't need her weapon, it might be a good idea for your account to pull Yuzuha just the M0. So pull until you get M0 Yuzuha, and then use everything that you get during the season. So take advantage of all the events that are coming and everything else. Take every poly and throw them all into that Miyabi banner. And then if you get lucky and you get the Miyabi M0, maybe take all the rest of your polys that you get and throw them all into that Miyabi weapon banner and try to get the Miyabi weapon. And that's probably the best course of action for your account right now, because that way at least you'll have the Yuzuha, who's a unique support that works both in anomaly teams and in stun style teams and every type of team. So at least that way you won't be missing out on something special and unique. But keep in mind that there's no wrong choice here. These are both extremely powerful characters, and I know someone's looking for this type of video and losing their mind like, man, I really don't know which one to pull for. And I'm sorry that I can't give you better help with that, because it's a tough choice. I'm lucky in that I had Miyabi for a very long time, but if I didn't have Miyabi, I'd be tearing my hair out right now about how I was going to get enough polys to pull for both Yuzuha and Miyabi. So it's a very tough choice, but once again, that's my advice for you in the end. Go for the M0 Yuzuha, I think, and then once you get that M0 Yuzuha, dump every poly you get every day. Dump every little poly into that Miyabi, and try to get her if you can. That way you can have both of the characters, because really they work so well together, and you're not going to regret having the two of them, I think. So, that's my best advice to you guys. I'm sorry if it only helped so much, but I do love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel as much as you have, and look for more Zenless Zone Zero videos very soon. Take care, everybody. I'll see you all later.